I am here today with a beautiful Ayo. Ayo?
Ayo.
I was asking her to say her name because I called her Ayo, but actually it's Ayo, which is a beautiful name. I'm just cleansing her skin now, and I'm going to show you a really gorgeous, polished and sculpted glam look today. Now that we've cleansed the skin, I'm going to moisturize, and I'm using this moisturizer by a brand called You Beauty. This is called the Super Smart Hydrator, and it is a really, really beautifully hydrating moisturizer. So great for anyone with drier skins or just likes to put a real dose of moisture in the skin, packed full of hyaluronic acid, and it gives a beautiful glow as well. Next up, foundation, and I am using a foundation by a brand called You Beauty. This is a weightless, soft, matte, hydrating foundation, and that's exactly how it feels on the skin. Completely weightless, really, really lightweight, glides on, and actually I think it looks really sheer and natural considering that it's sort of got a demi-matte finish. I first tried this brand a little while ago, and I was really, really impressed by the amount of pigment and colour payoff that they have in their products, and also a huge shade range for all skin tones, and it's actually now available in Boots online and in store, so it makes it a little bit more accessible, which is really, really great. Look how beautiful that foundation looks on Ayo's skin. So gorgeous. I'm going to pop a little bit of concealer on now. This is the Woke Concealer in shade number T1. The foundation is shade number T1C. Just popping that concealer a little under the eyes here, just where we want a tiny little bit more coverage. And I'm just going to buff that into the skin now, just to give us a real flawless, seamless base. Just going to set that base with a little bit of powder, mainly in the center of the face, which is why I'm just using a really small brush so we can be quite precise. This is the Laura Mercier setting powder in the shade Honey. This is going to be quite brightening on Ayo's skin tone, which is exactly what I want, especially in the center of the face. Now that beautiful base is done, I'm going to move on to eyes before I finish putting detailing it in the skin. I'm using a Natasha Denona eye base. Obviously looks like a very light shade compared to Ayo's skin tone, but that's exactly why I'm using it, because I want it to really brighten the eye area, and actually this one blends really nicely, so you can kind of buff it in, and it's just going to be a sort of lighter base, and that's going to work with the rest of our eyeshadow application. So as you can see, once the primer is buffed and blended out, it's a little more sheer and natural, and also it doesn't completely mattify, even though once the eyeshadow goes on top it holds. So I'm a really big fan of this primer for kind of giving still like a little dewiness to the lids, but in a way that will still keep your shadow or liner or whatever it is in place. Next up, I'm going to use a NARS shadow stick, and this is in the shade Dark Angel, which is a really beautiful rich brown. They're really soft and easy to use. I'm just popping a little bit really roughly in the socket line, and then I'm just going to blend and soften that. It's just going to create a little bit of natural looking shadowing in this area so that we can start creating dimension for the eyes. I'm also going to use the Black Magic Carnival palette, also from You Beauty. Look at all the amazing fun shades in this palette. We're not going quite as fun today. I'm just going to use this gorgeous warm brown, and I'm going to pop this kind of on top of where we applied that shadow. The shadow stick is going to give us something to grip to, so we get a little bit more intensity of colour in the outer corner of that eye and right through into the socket also. Just popping a little liner on now, just along the lash line and also a little bit underneath the eye, and then I'm going to blend that out. Just want to add a little bit more depth and definition around the lash line for this look. Just added a little bit of shadow, the same shadow that we used before, on top of that liner, just to make it a bit more cohesive and blend it with the rest of our eye look. I'm going to line the eyes now, and I'm using the KVD tattoo liner just because it's super black and easy and quick to use. I am just going to use this just on the outer part of the eye. I really want to emphasize this shape, and that liner is going to help to do that. Next up now, I am going to use this beautiful rosy gold shade from the palette, and I'm just using a finger because I want this application to be really subtle, little pop of shimmer just in the center of the lid. And I find when you use the warmth of your fingers to apply this, it almost just helps it to melt into the skin. How beautiful. The mascara that I'm using is the Urban Decay Lash Freak mascara, which is a really great, super volumizing mascara that you can really kind of coat every lash with for super dramatic lashes, which we love. Now moving on to brows, and I'm going to use some of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Freeze in IO's brows. This product is really a godsend if you have unruly brows because it's really firm hold, so it helps keep the brows in place. Just combing it through with this end of the spoolie, and then with the other end, I'm just going to flatten and press those brows to the skin so that we get a nice smooth surface. Now that the brows are done, I'm just adding a little bit of a lighter shade of concealer under the brow. This is going to help to clean up the shape, and also what it's going to do is it's going to help to slightly conceal any of the little kind of rogue hairs that IO has naturally growing there without having to pluck them out. We just want to cover them a little bit. So just adding a touch of concealer. I'm also going to put some highlighter under that brow bone, and the concealer is going to create a nice creamy base for that highlighter to stick to. Another place I want to put a little bit of the concealer is just down the center of the nose. Because this is a brighter shade, it's actually going to act as like a very natural looking highlight. So I'm going to put it in all of the places I'd normally highlight. And now to contour, I'm going to use the Sculpt and Strobe Duo Stick, also from Uma Beauty, and I'm popping some of that under cheekbones. Also going to pop this either side of the nose from where we applied that lighter concealer in the center, a little bit under that cheekbone. I'm also going to add some in the temples here and then blend that out. So when I contour, I like to use quite a small brush, and I use one side to create quite a precise line, and then I want to blend that out so that actually you're not sort of dragging that product around the skin too much, but you're keeping that clean line where I applied it, and then the rest we're softening and blending out a little bit. And that smaller brush allows you to be quite precise with that application. And for cheeks, I always like to push and blend my contour upwards. I find that way it really helps to lift the angle on the shape of the face as opposed to dragging anything down. Now another little trick to really clean looking contour is to powder underneath. So I'm taking some more of that Laura Mercier powder in the shade Honey, which as you can see is a little brighter than IO's skin tone, and I'm just sweeping that under where I applied that contour. So it's going to stop that contour from moving, it's going to set the skin a little bit, but it's also going to brighten underneath, which makes that contrast even more noticeable. Now for blush, I'm going to use this one by Vive Muse, and this is in the shade Malbec. It's a really beautiful, plummy, rosy tone that's going to look so beautiful. Well, it does look so beautiful on IO's skin tone. Really love these blushes because they're super rich shades and highly pigmented too. To highlight, I'm going to use this one by Uma Beauty. This is in the shade Notting Hill. This has got to be one of my favorite highlighting powders for deeper skin tones. It's so beautiful, and it's not always easy to find highlighters that work really well to brighten and add a little bit of glow without any ashiness on deeper skin tones, but this one is perfect. So I'm just dusting this on cheekbones. I'm going to put it on all of the high points of the face too. Now moving on to the lips, and I'm just going to line the lips with a MAC pencil in the shade Chestnut. This is just a classic go-to for kind of a natural looking liner, just to add a little bit of definition. The lipstick I'm using is also from MAC. This is a real classic. This is in the shade Taupe, and this is going to be a beautiful peachy pinky nude on IO's skin tone. Doesn't it look gorgeous? Kind of a perfect nude this. I'm going to add a little more a lip liner afterwards to really blend that together so it looks super natural. Just to finish the look now, I'm going to use a little bit of the Dior Lip Maximizer Hyaluronic Lip Gloss, and this is a really beautiful bronzy shimmery tone. And I'm just going to put mainly a little bit in the center of the mouth. I love the fact that it's got a tiny bit of pink reflex that runs through it too, so it's actually really soft and flattering when it's on, and obviously makes the lips look plump and divine.